Good morning. Thank you to the Office of Prime Minister Djukanovic and the government of Montenegro for hosting today's incredibly important forum. And thank you to my friend Jovan for inviting out leadership to support you on the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia here in Montenegro. Thank you for the opportunity to share some opening remarks as you embark on a day of what I know will be stimulating discussions. In the late 1990s, I left college to begin my career. I moved from North Carolina to New York to start my career on Wall Street. At my first job, I assumed that being out of the closet would be easy, as it was with my friends, with my family, at my school, almost the norm. But after a few weeks of my first boss tossing around anti-gay slurs, being open about my identity felt like way too much of a risk. So I went back in the closet, and I spent precious energy hiding who I was, energy that I could have used on my job. I was changing pronouns, I was making up girlfriends instead of doing my work, and ultimately I did what LGBT people who were forced to be in the closet do. I left that firm. Working in an anti-gay office culture negatively impacts productivity. But when I started interviewing for a new job, I decided that things were going to be different. I refused to hide who I was. I was out in my interview, I got the job, and the risk paid off. From then on, I've never lied about who I was. My new boss, my colleagues, my clients were all incredibly supportive allies of the LGBT community, and they all appreciated my honesty and, most importantly, my integrity. They recognized that my value as a professional and the different perspective that I brought as an LGBT person was valuable to them as clients and to our firm. As Hillary Clinton said, LGBT rights are human rights. And respecting human rights, including all people in your society, does have a direct impact on economic development. LGBT inclusion does drive business ROI. We've seen it all around the world in every business. And that's the foundation of Out Leadership's work. We actually call it Return on Equality. We work with 59 of the world's leading businesses, including banks, law firms, and insurance companies all around the world. From the United States to the Balkans, from Europe to Asia, the best businesses in the world are seeing that tearing down barriers that restrict talent is just good policy. It's estimated that the global LGBT marketplace last year exceeds $3 trillion, and the global LGBT talent pool is over 140 million people. Forward-thinking global organizations want to and need to be able to put their best talent wherever they can make the most impact. And these numbers clearly demonstrate that there is power to LGBT equality. There is a business case. It's also just the right thing to do. As you embark on today's transformational and engaging program, I want to take a moment to remind you of the true impact that forums like this have and have had around the world. 2 years ago, Out Leadership asked Dr. York Chow, the chairperson of the Hong Kong Equal Opportunities Commission, to speak at our first Out on the Street Asia Summit, which was actually the first LGBT business summit ever in Asia. At first, Dr. Chow had a few hesitations. Hong Kong's EOC had not been engaged affirmatively on LGBT rights before. The LGBT people in Hong Kong were not covered under the current EOC policies, and there wasn't a lot of precedent for Dr. Chow to do so. The culture of Hong Kong was still and is still relatively conservative when it comes to LGBT rights. Dr. Chow wasn't quite sure how to proceed, so he did something incredible. He asked his daughter what she thought. To her, it was a no-brainer. Of course her father should support LGBT rights. His daughter knew what all of us have spent years advocating for, that LGBT people deserve rights and recognition. So Dr. Chow decided to participate in Out on the Street Asia. And by engaging with our work, through working with all of the companies and the senior leaders and the CEOs that were in that room, Dr. Chow came to see that LGBT non-discrimination in the business context was an issue that he needed to stand up for. Since then, Dr. Chow has become a forceful voice, furthering the conversation around LGBT equality in Hong Kong that has resonated all across Asia. Dr. Chow's example, to me, offers several instructive themes that I hope you'll consider as you embark on today's conversations in Montenegro. It's not always an easy conversation to have, but that is why you're here. Because, like Dr. Chow, you have the audacity to drive equality forward. You have the bravery to claim your identity as an LGBT person, or, like Dr. Chow, to stand up as an out ally. The LGBT community needs strong allies to secure equality all around the world. And like Dr. Chow, you understand how important the views and the values of the next generation of emerging leaders are to this fight. The person who was best able to convince Dr. Chow to embrace LGBT equality was not a diplomat or a business leader or even an international advocate. It was his daughter. The next generation gets it. They understand that LGBT equality is a necessary and integral part of a just society, and they are communicating that belief now more loudly than ever. The government of Montenegro and the Prime Minister's office are doing important work. They're creating clear guidelines to combat discrimination and to increase visibility of LGBT people. Their work demonstrates their firm commitment to the principles of liberty, to developing Montenegro's business environment, and ultimately to furthering the standard of living both here, throughout the Balkans, and in Europe. Thank you so much for all your important work. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but I know what you're doing here today is going to continue to change the world. Have a great forum.